I'm historian Seraphima. I specialize in folk traditional practices, witchcraft, and the occult. And as per my previous video, I was asked to dive a little bit deeper into the concepts of cults within occult spaces and adjacent pagan and spiritual paths. So my primary focus for this video is going to be on identification. How do we identify a cult? I personally think this information is important for everyone to have, and even for people to get a refresher every once in a while. Thankfully, we have lots of resources to help identify, like Stephen Hassan's BITE model of authoritarian control. BITE stands for behavior, information, thought, and emotional. These are the areas targeted for control. These forms of control, however, are not always easily identifiable, so let's break them down a bit. Let's start with behavioral. Behavioral control comes from a series of gives and takes. Oftentimes, recruiters will engage in something called love bombing, where they very quickly become your best friend, supporting you, showing interest in you, providing you with massive amounts of dopamine in the form of care and compassion. They very quickly try to ingratiate themselves into your life. They will also highly encourage and insist upon behaviors that they want to see from you. This can often be encouraging negative behavior from the other party, and then offering validation for that negative behavior, i.e., they will give you an idea to do a bad thing. They will encourage you to see through the bad thing. Once the bad thing is done, they will offer their own validation of said bad thing. The next point we're going to dissect is information. They control the information that you have access to, or provide you with false information to fill in the blanks. You will only have access to information that makes them look like the good guy, like providing one side of an argument, or instilling at every opportunity that they themselves have been victimized. And by proxy, you yourself have been victimized. They always need to control the narrative. Now, information leads directly into thought, but manipulation of thought comes in a multitude of forms, like internalizing their narrative as the only truth, instilling false memories of specific events. I don't think you're remembering that correctly because this is what really happened. Instilling the mentality of opposition. There's always an inner and then an outer, or one side and the other, whilst always maintaining that they have done no wrong and they are always the good guy. The last method of control in this model is emotional. And again, we bring up the give and take nature of that. One day it'll be praise and love bombing and validation, and the next day it will be threats, completely invalidating concerns, the overriding of one's conscience, like with doing the bad thing. You know the bad thing is bad, but you still do it because you feel now that it is the right thing to do. This also comes with the installation of enemies. There are enemies everywhere. We have to keep a close-knit group because the enemies are coming. Even going as far as to single out individuals or organizations that are the enemy. They will also instill that any action of self-care or self-worth is seen as selfish or a betrayal. They will also instill that all of your actions are entirely of your own volition and your own fault, which will lead you to feelings of guilt, despite the fact that they have created the environment in which these behaviors were acceptable. You're a grown adult. You chose to do it on your own, when the reality is that they have fostered and enforced through positive enforcement and negative repercussion that this was your only option. They also always instill an amount of fear that you will be ostracized from the group. At any moment, the leader can rescind their invitation for you to be in the group. As soon as the leader does not approve of you, everyone else in the group will follow, effectively shunning any member that displeased the leader, while simultaneously ensuring that you cannot actually leave said group for fear of your actions and behaviors that had been enforced will be revealed to the greater public, that there will be no acceptance for you outside of said group. Now, all of this being said, a cult itself doesn't necessarily have a title. We often see sensationalized within the medias certain groups that have titles and organizations in which cult behavior has been expected or ensured. But understand that cult is a broader term for simply authoritarian control. There is one leader. Everyone defers to said leader, whilst that leader continuously ensures that they uphold the idea of it's a group. So understanding that, we know that the BITE model is applicable to large groups of hundreds or even small groups of 10 and less. There are plenty of resources out there that you can access for yourself to give you more in-depth information about the BITE model and authoritarian control. But I hope this provided a good refresher to help ensure your own safety and autonomy.